Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. If you live in London, you might be familiar with Grind Coffee. Opening first in Shoreditch with Shoreditch Grind, they've become known across the city for their excellent coffee served in some key locations. And you may also be familiar with their very distinctive pink coffee tin, which seems to have popped up everywhere in the last couple of years. It's very Instagrammable. It's been seen in lots of people's kitchens, proudly displayed on the side with their home coffee subscription service as well. Today, I am delighted to be joined on the podcast in episode number 96 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan with me, Catherine Eardley, your host. And I'm joined today by David Abramovich, who is the founder and CEO of Grind Coffee, who is going to tell us an incredible story about how the business pivoted and what the pandemic meant to them and their business, as well as sharing some really fascinating insights into what makes a brand, the importance of that brand identity and how it goes so far beyond the visual look of a brand, and also talking to us about their efforts to become more sustainable and educate their customers, walk that line between both following what their customer wants in terms of sustainability, but also playing a role in educating their customers about potential greenwashing from other businesses as well. So it's a fascinating interview and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. David, thank you so much for joining me today. Do you want to start us off by introducing yourself and telling us more about Grind?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, so my name's David Abramovich. I'm the founder and CEO of Grind, which is a coffee company based in London. We started back in 2011 when we opened a physical coffee shop, our first location, which was Shoreditch Grind. And actually, that's where I'm sat right now in the recording studio above Shoreditch Grind.
Oh, I've been there several times. I didn't realise you guys had a recording studio though.
Yeah, we do. That was kind of part of the legacy of things you do when you're opening your very first site, and you're just kind of doing things that seem like a good idea at the time. But no, it's been really fun having the studio here. The guy that I founded the original site with, Kaz, was a musician and a DJ, so hence the recording studio up here. And over the years, we've had lots of really cool people come and record, and it's all helped to build the brand, I guess. And then so we started with this location. We spent kind of most of our first 10 years building the physical business. So we progressed from coffee into coffee and cocktails, and then added food, and the sites that we opened got bigger and bigger, and up to Greenwich Grind, which seats 250 people simultaneously for brunch at the weekend, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
So we kept doing that, and that was really successful, and we built a large audience. We built a well-known brand. And then 2019, we did our largest fundraise to date, which was a £3.5 million Crowdcube raise. And we decided to invest £1 million of that money into developing coffee products. And then, as you can imagine, the timing on that was pretty good in terms of what was to follow and the pandemic. I'm sure we'll come on to that. So today we are, kind of 50-50 a coffee at home and coffee on the high street business.
That kind of leads me neatly on to my next question, which was, so you were building up the physical premises, and then of course 2020 happened, pandemic hit. You just started developing these coffee products. As you said, that's really fantastic timing. What was the kind of impact on your business?
So we started developing the products in 2019, and we launched them kind of very late 19, just in time for Christmas, softly. And then as we went into 2020, we were starting to spend our first little bit of money on Facebook ads, and our Shopify site had launched, and our hero product at the time and remains our compostable pods for Nespresso machines. So they're the same as a Nespresso pod, except they're better in every single way. I would like to say, in terms of they're compostable, which is better for the planet. The coffee inside them tastes better and is organic, and they deliver you a much better coffee. So we started that literally, we really started giving that some proper energy just in kind of January, February 2020. We moved into a bigger facility to roast coffee and pack coffee, and we took on agreements like our global supply agreement to Soho House to start building that whole the whole side of the business that really revolved around coffee not served by us, if you like.
Yes.
And then, of course, as we all know very well what happened, we were locked down. We were forced to close all of our sites overnight, which was obviously pretty devastating and very upsetting for everyone involved, and just awful, really. But the nice thing that happened was our customers at the beginning, and then after that, just the general population really supported us in terms of buying these coffee products while we were locked down. So we immediately sent emails out to our whole customer base saying, we're closed, but please buy our coffee to use at home. And this really kind of lit a rocket underneath the retail business, if you like. And, that grew from being, less than 1% of revenue to replacing most of the revenue that we lost on the high street pretty quickly. Yeah, it was pretty astonishing.
So that must have been, and just talk me through a little bit though, what that looked like to have to build out that operation at speed. So this demand suddenly came flooding in for the capsules. How did you manage that with the supply chain?
So look, I think all good stories have a big, healthy dollop of good luck, right?
Yes.
And ours certainly has a big, healthy dollop of good luck. We made a very conscious decision to invest in a big new roastery and invest in the website and the things that I mentioned. And, part of that was, okay, well, let's order a few containers of our pink tins from China, because, we buy those in from China, partly assembled, and then we fully assemble and fill them with coffee in our roastery in London. And let's buy lots of boxes that we need. And, let's buy lots of coffee that we need. So we've got plenty on hand. So fortunately, we placed those orders in advance. And we even we spent £250,000 on an automated tinning line to automate the process of putting coffee into tins. We ordered that in July 19 or something, and it literally got delivered in March 2020. And a few containers of product made it through just before the lockdown. So we were really lucky in terms of the timing. And I always think, if someone had got on a plane from China to Europe just that bit earlier, and all the lockdown stuff had just gone a little bit faster, we could have missed that opportunity, not had the stock, and we probably wouldn't be having this. I probably wouldn't have been invited onto your podcast today. So look, we were lucky with we're really lucky with the timing, but also, the team were amazing. Nowadays we employ 50 or 60 people on that side of the business. Yeah. But at the time, that side of the business employed 2 or 3 people, literally a handful of people, and they never had a single day off. They never did one day of lockdown. We kept the roastery open, and they did an incredible job of making product, fulfilling product, and we really started building that team again very fast at the height of the lockdown, which was just a crazy time to be operating.
Were you able to redeploy some of your physical store staff then, your physical cafe staff?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them got drafted in to help roast and pack and ship coffee from the sites. And actually, some of those have led to permanent changes. The girl called Frankie, who used to do our restaurant PR, she now runs the email marketing team for the digital half of the business. And so lots of people kind of moved over permanently and also temporarily to support the growth.
Wow. It's incredible. And then, so was there a point at which, though, you've got all this extra coffee, you've got these tins coming in from China? Was the demand so great that you were like, oh my goodness, we need more tins, we need more coffee? Did you have that sort of scrabbling around as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, one of the biggest topics of conversation for the whole of 2020 was, when are we going out of stock? When are we next out of stock? Because our sales grew 50 or 60x, 60, that is, not 16. And that kind of demand is unprecedented. And everything breaks, your systems breaks, your customer service team can't cope, fulfillment can't cope, you're out of stock of everything. And, it got to the point where I think people forget how bad it was during that first lockdown. Like, you literally, you couldn't even move pallets around the country. Moving pallets around the country is the most basic thing that happens as part of every supply chain. And even that stuff broke. So a friend of mine, an old school friend, runs a vehicle rental business. And we rented a couple of big trucks from him and drove them ourselves down to Southampton to beg people to get our containers, and so we could unload them pallet by pallet, put them into these vans and drive them back to London. That was how seat of your pants it was.
How has it been then into 2021 and 2022? How's it been how did you navigate, I suppose, reopening your physical premises as well as then balancing the demands of the digital business?
Yeah, I mean, it's forever changed the trajectory of the business. The high street business has since reopened and is broadly back to pre-pandemic levels or better.
Yeah.
We've got a takeaway only site in the heart of the city at Bank Station, which is at nothing like the sales it was before, obviously, because footfall is still reduced by 80%. But broadly speaking, most of our sites are back to where they were or even a little bit better. So that's great. And the retail business, the coffee pod and coffee at home business has continued to grow. So I think what you've seen in a lot of areas is restaurants or bars came up with cocktails at home kits or, make our food at home kits. And I think in the most part, those businesses have now fallen away or been closed or certainly have fallen considerably. Ours is actually bigger than ever. So, the business is bigger today than it was at any point of the lockdown and continues to grow and is now separated into a division of its own. And the business today is kind of 50-50, the restaurant business and the retail business, which is astonishing that it didn't exist at all before the pandemic. And it's now as big in size as our entire high street business.
I'm interested to know what sort of relationship you've actually seen between the restaurants and the digital. So do you find, for example, that the fact that you had more digital customers means that people have a better brand awareness of the restaurants, and vice versa? Do you find that people who live near a restaurant are more likely to be digital customers? I'm curious to see if you've seen any kind of patterns like that.
Yeah, that's something we look at a lot. And look, I think, I always say, if I had launched a coffee pod business, which was nothing to do with Grind, or if Grind didn't exist and I tried to launch David's Coffee Pods on March the 1st, 2020, it would not be the business it is today, right? It absolutely benefited from the brand equity and the brand recognition that we spent 10 years building up the hard way, if you like, on the high street, because it's hard on the high street. And in the last couple of weeks, for the first time, we've run tube ads, which has been amazing to see Grind on the tube and even on the new Elizabeth line yesterday to see our ads. And, those have performed really, really well and better than expected, actually. And I think, again, that speaks to the kind of brand equity that has been built up over the last decade. But look, it's really that both sides are really helpful to the other side. Lots of our at-home customers learn about us in store. We give postcards and samples out in the stores to encourage people to try it at home. And equally, we spent a lot of money marketing the retail business, and that's introduced lots of people to the brand who then come and try us out in real life. And look, I think we are obviously, the majority of our customers now are outside of London, not inside London for the first time. So lots of them live quite far away from the Grind, because Grind is our own stores are only in London, but they can interact with us in other places, like, Soho House, for example. We supply them globally in all of their locations. So we have an increasingly international business as well. You can now buy our coffee at home anywhere in Europe or the US and have it fulfilled from our warehouses in Amsterdam and New Jersey. So we're increasingly operating away from the physical footprint of our stores, but they're still incredibly important for showcasing what we do, building loyalty, building pedigree. And, even if you just come in and have a coffee every now and again when you happen to be in London, and most of the time you drink our coffee at home, it's still really important that they exist and that they fulfill that role.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important, because so often people talk about e-commerce and physical as two separate things, but they're really just so intertwined and so sort of one supports the other. It's really interesting to hear how that evolved for you.
Yeah, completely. And I think the days of pure D2C are rapidly coming to a close. I think multi-channel is the future, selling your products through your website, through your own stores, and through other well-aligned third parties is definitely the future. And luckily, we already have a lot of that in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about your coffee pods, because I know that you've just launched the sort of super rapid compostable coffee pods. Have they always been compostable? Is that have they always been biodegradable? What's the kind of distinction between the pods and how do how does that tie into what you've seen in terms of the customers' move towards sustainability?
So look, exactly as you've said in that question, right? There is confusion between hold on, what's compostable? What's biodegradable? What does all this stuff mean? I don't know what to do. Which coffee pod should I buy? And I think it's a big topic. And we've done some research recently, and a third of the people we spoke to admitted to just throwing them away because they don't really know what they do to them. I think something like 2 in 5 people think that because pods are small, it doesn't matter really if they get recycled or not. But what they overlook is that the number of these things which are produced are phenomenal. We're talking billions and billions of these a year. And what that means is that, and the biggest producer of them in terms of volume is Nespresso, which is owned by Nestle.
Yeah.
And if you look at Nestle's own numbers that they put out, they make aluminium pods, and according to their own data, less than 1 in 3 of those pods are actually recycled. And that means if you look at the estimated number of pods that are being produced and you overlay that less than 1/3 number, that leaves you to about 29,000 pods going into landfill every single minute around the world.
Wow.
Which is an astonishing number, right? An absolutely astonishing number. So this is a big problem. And mistakenly, people think that, but hold on, aluminium is infinitely recyclable, right? Like aluminium's great. So it can just be recycled over and over again. And that's true of aluminium as a material. But the problem with pods is that the new ones that Nestle make and others make are not made from 100% recycled aluminium. They're made from 80% recycled aluminium. And although that kind of sounds good, actually what that means is, well, hold on, they're made from 20% fresh aluminium every single time. And they're making billions of those every year. And the extraction of aluminium is really not great. It's very energy intensive, kind of 4 tons in to 1 ton out in terms of energy. And it uses huge amount of electricity, huge amounts of water, lots of chemicals. It can be quite harmful to the environment where it's extracted and the people that are doing the extraction. So, there's this whole kind of inconvenient truth, if you like, of a supply chain producing all of this aluminium. So our pods previously were certified to be industrially compostable. And now industrially compostable is great because it's a big step forward from metal or plastic. And it means that once these pods are in the local council's composting facilities, they will biodegrade and they'll break down in kind of 8 to 12 weeks. And that's good. And also they'll perform much better if they do end up in landfill than a metal or a plastic pod.
Right.
But the problem is that not all councils have these composting facilities. And also, you've got to put them in a vehicle to get them to the composting facilities, which leads to more vehicles on the road, etc. And like all of the pods out there at the moment, apart from ours, which claim to be compostable or biodegradable, they are certified as industrially compostable, but they're not home compostable. And really, home compostable standards are the future. And I think we're going to see in the next few years, it's likely that, at some point in the next 5 years, it will become against the rules to start talking about industrially compostable as compostable. And to claim that something is compostable, they'll need to be home compostable, which is the certification that our new pods now meet. And they are the first in the UK and the only ones in the UK to be certified as home compostable. And that means quite literally that you can compost them at home in your composting bin in your back garden. So they can go in there along with grass cuttings and eggshells and banana skins, and they'll break down in 180 days, which is actually quicker than the banana skins and the grass cuttings that I just mentioned. So they'll go really, really fast. And you can compost at home without a garden. I think it's important to point out, with a little thing called a bokashi bin, which you can get for about 20 quid off Amazon. So if you live in a flat, you have a balcony, you can have a little one of those going. And also, should they end up in landfill, or should they even end up in the ocean, which of course we really would not encourage that, and we hope that doesn't happen. But you have to accept that not every single pod you produce is going to be correctly recycled, right? Whoever you are. So you have to also look at, well, what's the worst case scenario here? And the worst case scenario for us is that these pods will decompose in all of those environments, and they'll do it tens, if not hundreds of times faster than metal pods as well. So, we think it's really the most sustainable way to enjoy coffee at home.
I mean, it's staggering the numbers involved, and as you said, the lifetime of the non-biodegradable pods. So you've been running the business now for over a decade. How do you think that the consumer's attitude towards these issues has changed? Do you think that this is something that you're getting? I mean, obviously, it's fantastic what you've done, and it's the right thing to do for the planet, for the environmental impact of the company. But I'm just curious to sort of understand a little bit more about the customer's journey. Is it more like you're leading the customer, or the customer's leading you, or is it kind of a joint thing? And how have people shifted how they think about sustainability?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think everyone cares much more than they used to, and I think it's on the agenda much more than it used to be. And my own teams are some of the biggest challenges to the business in terms of we could do this better. We employ 250 people, most of whom are in their kind of early 20s to late 30s, and they are exactly our audience, and they are constantly driving us forward in terms of doing better. Equally, we have to take our customers on the journey of making them realize that perhaps they might have been slightly greenwashed in terms of some of the claims that some of the ways that they make coffee at home are. And, they might have been slightly misled by recycling schemes and by recycled aluminium and these kind of messages that are slightly complex messages to unpick. And, I even see I see on the responses to our Instagram ads, a lot of confusion. We push ads out on Instagram saying, you should try compostable. Here's the problem with metal pods. And a lot of people come back and say, but Nespresso pods are recyclable, or but Nespresso make bicycles out of Nespresso pods. And it's like we have to educate people, because the reality is they made 1,000 bicycles out of Nespresso pods as a PR stunt. That was probably a day's worth of the pods that went into landfill at the absolute most, if not a few hours, right? So you have to try and slowly unpick these messages. And look, our goal is to move the entire coffee industry forward in this. And it's not to score points off other people who are in the industry, but, this topic has to be raised up the agenda in order for customers across the world and across the board to take more of an interest and to make sure that the whole industry moves on. And, hopefully we're kind of leading the way on that a little bit.
Like you said, it's like the educational piece for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it's giving them what they want, but then also playing that role of explaining the nuances.
Also, at the same time, just not making people feel guilty, right? Because we're not here to make people feel bad. We're here to offer people a better choice. And that doesn't just mean better for the environment. It means better product, better taste, better packaging, better delivery, better customer service, and better for the environment. Because you can't just go out and win on an environmental message, right? We need to elevate the entire category.
Yeah, it needs to be a great cup of coffee, let's face it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've touched on this before, but I just wanted to talk to you briefly about the importance of brand, because you started the home delivery service, as you said, with 10 years of grind, people having that brand awareness and having built up the brand. And of course, you have your iconic, when I think of grind now, I think of that pink tin, and it's very, very recognizable. So when you're dealing with a product like coffee, then which is super competitive, how important do you think the brand has been?
Brand is of critical importance and always has been. And, without realizing it, I think early on we made decisions that helped to form the brand. So, we always had, even before we roasted it ourselves, we had coffee roasted for us to our specifications, packed up in grind bags. And we've always been building the brand, and everything we've done has always been brand driven. And I think I think you can get confused and think that brand is just logo and image and nonsense. And it's not. Brand is values, right? The logo is shorthand for all of the things that the brand represents. So, the Nike tick is shorthand for all of the things that company represents across product quality, working with athletes, development of products, innovation, etc. And that's why brand is powerful. And our brand has to be shorthand for customers for super high quality coffee, sustainable, digital, young, innovative, challenger, etc. And you have to constantly invest in building the brand so that when people are making a quick purchasing decision, they choose your brand because they know what it stands for. So brand is central to everything we do. And we say no to a lot of opportunities, and we make a lot of decisions which are not financially in our best interest all of the time because it helps to build the brand. A great example would be that, we've had compostable coffee cups for as long as I can remember, right? And before anyone cared if their cup that they got from our store was compostable, they cost 2 or 3 times what the other ones do. Similarly, if you buy our kilo bags of coffee, they come in compostable material with a compostable valve. I can buy the plastic material and the plastic valves for literally 10% of what it costs to buy the compostable ones. But you make those investments, and some of them get noticed and some of them don't. But overall, you make those investments in brand and they pay off in the long term. And I think that was what we saw during the pandemic. We saw all of the investments we made in people, team, product, fit out, brand quality, design, all of those 10 years of investment paid off during the pandemic because people liked what we were doing and because they liked the brand and they wanted to support it.
Yeah, for sure. And ultimately, I know I keep harping back to this, but as a coffee fan, I have to say it, it's a great cup of coffee, right? And it's like the product. Ultimately, like you say, the brand is the culmination of everything, including great product.
Absolutely. And look, you mentioned the tin. The tin has been an amazing device for us in terms of, something that you keep out on your side, something that I loved hearing you refer to it as iconic, because that is exactly, that is the dream. The dream is that the tin becomes iconic. And I think maybe it's on its way there. But again, buying a tin once is great. And I've got a pretty tin and I sit it in my kitchen and I like the brand and it's cool. But we don't want you to buy it once. We want you to be a subscriber and to get our pods through the post, through your letterbox every single month, which, fortunately tens of thousands of people now do. But you're only going to keep that subscription and you're only going to keep it if you enjoy the coffee pod that you have, all the beans that you have every single day, right? So you have to deliver quality to build a business which outlasts you. And, I really want Grind to outlast me and to still be a business that exists in 100 years' time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, Dane, and what an amazing story. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about where people can find out more about Grind?
Thank you for having me. No, it's been great. So if you want to learn more, great place to start is our Instagram @Grind and our website grind.co.uk. You can get a starter pack of our products at home, I think for about $9.95. And we just launched something which is quite cool, actually, which is worth checking out, which is a composting live stream. So to prove to people that our pods really do work, there is a compost bin in my back garden at home that has had as the side of it chopped off and replaced with a piece of acrylic so that you can see through it. And there's a little GoPro set up filming it 24/7, so you can watch our pods breaking down alongside some pods from Nestle and some other pods. So that's
I love that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So that's at grind.co.uk/composting live.
Thank you so much for listening into today's episode. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a cup of coffee now listening to all of that. I can vouch firsthand that Grind coffee is very delicious, so do go check them out. And why not come over and say hi on Instagram @Resilient Retail Club? Why not share a shot of where you're listening? I love to see that. And of course, if you have a moment to rate and review the podcast, that is always so appreciated. Rate it in either iTunes or in the Spotify app. And of course, if you hit subscribe or follow, then you'll be the first to know about each new episode. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.